Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. I am back from my little summer break. I normally take a break at the start of July and take some time off. It gives me time to just kind of get some ideas together, get myself back, organize guests for the next few podcasts coming up. And well, I didn't do any of that, unfortunately. But don't worry, I am lining up some really good guests for you. I cannot wait to have a few of them on, and once I have them booked in, those podcasts will be recorded as soon as possible. So, unfortunately, the return, you have to deal with me, which is, I'm sure, fine for all of my loyal fans. But basically, the reason I have not been as, say, organised as I normally would at this time is just I have spoken previously about my mental health in a previous episode, and to be honest, it's been a little bit up and down again. And in particular, August was a difficult month for me, for a couple of reasons. There were a lot of things that I suppose had big significant things that had happened in August for me in previous that were no longer going to happen, and they kind of affected me, and I just wasn't in the right headspace for going forward with doing things that I normally do in the month of August of getting myself ready. I didn't feel good in myself, so I didn't feel great about asking people to come on the show. So look, that's just the way it is. I'm going to be honest about it. I have decided to try and be as honest as I can about things going forward. I'm even this podcast should have been recorded before today, but here I am. It's the Tuesday it goes out, and it will be up in probably about an hour. Again, due to my own self, I don't blame anyone or anything. I always kind of try to take my own responsibility for that, like for things like that. And I suppose the other thing is this is going to be a bit of a turn on the mic and freestyle type podcast. I have not necessarily a plan, but I have an idea of what I want to talk about. And let's go with that, okay? So, first off, I did just want to say there, I mentioned kind of taking responsibility for things. This is something that I think a lot of people, myself included, over time, I've kind of gone the other way, trying to be radically responsible for everything. Don't do. And the reason I say this is because you hear a lot when someone's apologizing for something, they go, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, but this happened," or "but blah blah blah," or "but." You don't hear them going, "Yeah, look, I shouldn't have done that." That for me is very irksome. It's a pet peeve of mine. But look, I'm not saying I'm perfect. It is something that I have done over the years as well. Now I'm trying to change that. But basically, when you do that, you're not actually taking any responsibility for what you've just done. You're trying to blame it, push it onto something else, and get out of feeling the bad thing. You may be like, no, that's not it. There are reasons. There are reasons. Yes, there are some things that we cannot control in life, but a lot of the time, things that we do, we can control. And we are just trying to not feel bad about it. And I think there's a lot of disempowerment that comes when you do that. You are kind of letting the world control you, or whatever reasons control you. While it feels shittier to admit that it's your fault or you could have done better, I think there's a lot of empowerment with that. So for me, I always try my best. And as I said, I'm not perfect, to kind of take responsibility for things. and just be like, yep, there, that's what I did. I did that. Sorry, my bad. Um, that way you are accepting that you played a part in something. And again, as I said, it feels shitty when you are the cause of something that you don't want to be. But it's much better to be honest. I think a lot of people, another thing that I would say is irksome to me. This is going to be a big moan podcast. I'm like, hi guys, welcome back. I'm going to complain about everything. Um, is I think people saying one thing but not meaning it. I've had a bit of experience at this year with people who said something, and when they say it, they're only making themselves feel better, and their actions have been completely opposite. It's a little bit disappointing when that happens because you kind of knew it would happen, but you always kind of hope they'll prove you wrong, but often not. I'm sure you have come across plenty of people in your life who said something and you just know they're full of shite. I know plenty of people who aren't, and they are great people too. But there's some people who say something and you're like, yeah, they're full of shit. And then it's kind of disappointing when they prove you right, but that's something again I try to not do. I try to follow through what I do. And to be fair, 90% of the time I think I do. I try to be there for other people. But here's where I fall down. And here's where a lot of people might fall down. And that's for myself. I'm very good at telling myself I'm going to do something and being absolutely full of shit. um, at the moment, I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to, I write down things. Who here like has a to-do list, and you write the to-do list and you know full well you're not going to do half the to-do list, and then it just goes on to tomorrow's to-do list. And while that's not necessarily inherently bad, it's kind of teaching yourself that it's okay not to do the things you say you'll do, so that can bleed into other parts of your life. So for me at the moment, I'm trying to keep that to-do list short and actually do what I said I'd do. And if I haven't done it, what is the reason for doing it? There are sometimes things come up, things you're not expecting, and you have to like let yourself be and not do it. Because you're just going to put yourself under more pressure. And other times it's just because you're dicking around and you don't want to do the thing. Or, for instance, I may have this week I wanted to put off the podcast for another week, and because I felt underprepared, because I didn't feel like I was ready to come back. And there's no one's fault there except my own. I could have prepared, I could have done stuff, I could have done research, but I hadn't. And I'm just kind of having not doing it for a while. I was a little bit nervous about coming back. I was nervous how many people would listen to it, who cared about it. There's so many different reasons. But I said I was going to start back in September. I don't remember if I said it on socials, but I said it in my head. This is the first week in September. I am recording it on the day I wanted to go out, but it is going out. And yes, it is not prepared, it's not polished, and it's not going to be perfect, and it's just going to go out as is. But I'm doing what I said and I'm staying true to my word. And again, there are times when that doesn't happen, but I'm trying to be better of doing the things I said I'm going to do, because in the long run, it makes you stronger, it makes you feel better, it makes you more confident in yourself, because you know that you'll show up and you're showing up for yourself, which is probably the hardest thing to do. Like, if one of your friends called you tomorrow and said, I need you, can you help? You probably would go, yeah, where and when, what can I do? Whereas when it comes to ourselves, I think often it's like, it's fine. I don't need to do that. It's no big deal. And really, you are just not affording yourself the same amount of compassion, I think. You're not being good to yourself. And it's just like, you're letting yourself down. And that's a saying you normally see parents say or something when you do something wrong, like, oh, you've let yourself down. But in this way, you're also letting yourself down. Like, you deserve to get, I don't know how to describe it. Like, for instance, for example, this podcast, me doing this is lots of steps towards doing things I want to do. I'm got a degree in audio editing. I like working in media. I do work with Grassroots Gazette and I love the media work. This is my way of practicing that. It's hard to talk on your own, really difficult. It's easier to do interviews. So all of this is practice and making my media skills better and pushing me towards being a better media person. But it's difficult and sometimes I don't feel like doing it. And that's where it comes in the problem. Like, oh, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good enough. But it's better than nothing. And I know that sounds really bad, but what I mean is it's already going to be better than not showing up. So you're showing up for yourself, reinforcing that that's what you do. You make the weekly podcast. You're reinforcing your skills of practicing talking on your own, practicing something I'm not good at. And I feel like a massive accomplishment for doing it. And the more you do it, the better you get. Practicing these things is the only way to get better. And how many people give up when it gets hard, And it's hard. It's very hard. But you're never going to get better when you give up. So I hope that kind of ramble made sense in so much as doing these things have multiple layers of benefits, not just for myself, but for my own media skills, for potential career things. There's all these knock-on effects, and even just your own confidence. Like, if you're someone, as I said, that shows up for yourself, it's going to make you more confident when you show up for others, make you more confident putting yourself forward and things. I have another episode if I ever want to show different things that I've done, that's going to be up online. And I've done it from even tougher. No, there's no script here. This is me kind of going off my thoughts and expanding on them, which can be really, really hard. And I'm not saying all podcasts need a script, but you do kind of need notes and bullet points, whereas I'm literally free going now. So this is why it's all over the place. And it's just really important to show up for yourself, and you deserve it, basically, I think is the best way to say it. And being a person of your word is really, really important. And yeah, so I think as well, another thing that I found really important in the last while and on those strong times is kind of not looking back in a way, but kind of knowing when to let yourself rest and kind of absorb what's going on and let it pass through, or when it's time to move through things if you're struggling. So I know that makes no sense. What I'm trying to say is, when you're having a tough time, which I was kind of in August, you have two options often, which is sit there and do nothing and sit in your feelings, which is totally okay once you are kind of processing things and not just sitting there. Which again, sometimes you need days where you just sit there and you're in your feelings, but sometimes it's, you don't have the energy to do things, so you just sit there, feel the feelings, let it go through you, and then by the end of it, you feel better, which is something that I've learned to do through therapy. And the other thing you can do is get up and take action and move away from it. And there's two extremes in this. which I want to kind of be kind of specific about. Like, so there is the idea of just pushing all your feelings down and distracting yourself, which is not healthy and not advisable. And there's also the sitting there and letting yourself fall deeper and deeper into a pit of despair, which is also not always helpful, not always easy to get out of either. So what I'm trying to explain is not these two things. What I'm trying to explain is sometimes you need to get out and do things. Not saying you're running away from your feelings, but the longer you sit there, you'll fall into that trap of sitting and falling deeper and deeper into a depression. So sometimes you need to get up, intentionally go move. It doesn't mean that you're not dealing with the feelings. It means you're taking action towards, that's what it is, taking action towards moving away from those feelings. And how I describe that is if you're feeling crap and for instance, if you go for a walk or a run, or if you go create something, you'll feel much better, but you just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes forcing yourself to do that is really what you need. And you will feel better after doing it because you have then gone out, like for instance, if you walk or run, you've done something positive, something that's going to release endorphins and make you feel better. It's something you enjoy. If you're maybe creating something, again, something you enjoy, sometimes it's really hard to get in and do something like that, even though you really like doing it. Then on the flip side, there are days where you just have to listen to your body and this is not the day. This is not the day for me to go forward. I am upset, I'm anxious, and the worst thing you can do is go out and try and distract yourself because you're not actually feeling your feelings, you're actually using that to push them down. So if you are in that kind of state and you're on a day where you need to take a break and kind of have time to yourself, make sure you're also processing it. So you're not just sitting in sadness. Maybe you'll journal about how you're feeling, or maybe you will just think about what's going on, work through the emotions. Like sometimes you need to just be like, why am I feeling like this? Is that true? Okay, no. Sometimes if you can think yourself out of a hole with logic. Sometimes you can't. You can think yourself into a further hole. And sometimes maybe you're just feeling sad, and sometimes you're just like, that's just what it is, and I feel sad, and I'm going to just be sad today. And that's okay. Just try not to let it take over. And as I said, try and really, really important, I think, and it's something that I found really, really helpful when I'm having bad times is kind of thinking about what's bringing it up. Why am I feeling like this? Like, is this a story that I've made up in my head? Because sometimes they are. Or is it just I'm feeling vulnerable and sad again, which is also true. And these kind of tools maybe is a way to describe it, or even just processes can really help you get through the rough times. And one thing that I think is really important to remember is that it will pass. All the bad times will pass. I remember a few weeks ago I was having like this really like good couple of weeks, and I was like, what's going on? When's it gonna happen? And of course it did. It did. Kel came crashing down at a bad couple of weeks, but again, they've passed again. And what did I do? There were some situations where I had to bring Nippy to the vet and I was very worried about him. And I literally had a load of things planned for the day, and I just sat there that day and was like, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm worried about my guinea pig, and I just need to sit here and like panic about my guinea pig. But as soon as he was fine, I was like, right, let's get back up on that horse. What am I gonna do? And another day I was having some issues, and I was like, well, how can I change this? What do I want to do? So I sent out some messages and got on to people, and I took action. And again, it's put me in a place where I am now, again, feeling great, feeling motivated properly. I don't know if you can properly motivate it, but like I know motivation comes and goes like the feelings, but I've kind of put myself in scenarios again where I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm actioning things. And again, that time was right. Stop being nervous. Stop being worried about things. Put some things into action. And as I said, works both ways. They are the trick is kind of knowing when to do both, and also not beating yourself up for either. Um, Especially like I think it's very easy when you're in a down state and you need to take a break and sit back to feel like I need to be doing this, I should be doing this, and I'm not doing it, and why am I not doing it? And again, you are distracting yourself from actually processing the feelings, which is really the most important part in these kind of scenarios. You need to sit back and process. You can't run away from it forever. Believe me, I tried. But I just wanted to kind of talk about those two things because you can be seen to be doing the opposite when you're doing those things. You can seem to be doing things that are dragging you down more. But if you actually look at how you're dealing with things and oh god, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. If you look at it, are you doing it? Basically, ask yourself why you're doing it. Are you doing it because it'll make you feel better? Are you doing it because you're avoiding things? You know, just be really aware of how you're feeling and what's making you do what you're doing. I've learned, as I said, I learned a lot of things through therapy, and awareness has been a really big thing because when you're not aware of anything, you can't change it. Now I'm quite aware of different things and different triggers for myself. And when I feel myself triggered, I kind of ask myself why I'm feeling that way. Is that right? And a lot of the time I can talk myself off the ledge. Sometimes I don't do it as quick as I'd want to. But by the way, I say figuratively talk myself off the ledge before I spiral, not do anything. And that has become very, very useful. Like initially, maybe sometimes writing things down really helps, but as you get used to doing it, you can kind of maybe do it in your own head, ask yourself the questions. When you catch yourself going again, be like, is that true? Just literally just ask the questions, and it can literally be such a game changer when you ask yourself questions instead of just accepting everything. And obviously this is all my own experience. I don't know if it'll work for you. I really hope it might help you. If it if you have your own actually ideas, I'm going to be posting this on Instagram now. If you have any own ideas, please like comment them on the post. Things you do, things that help for you. I am not claiming to be a therapist. I'm not trying to say this will work for everyone. It may not. It's just things that work for me. I just want a disclaimer out there. I want you guys to maybe you'll think of something differently that I didn't think of before, or maybe me posting this will make you think of something differently and it'll help you. So that's the reason I'm doing it. It's not here to say this is how you have to do things, but for me it's worked, and maybe it'll work for you. I hope it will work for you. And I think with that, I'm going to leave this week's episode. I hope it wasn't too chaotic, and I hope I was able to explain things without it sounding very, very weird. But sure, look, it wouldn't be me if it wasn't weird. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, your week, your whatever you are doing, whenever you are listening to this. If you want to find me, I'm on Instagram and TikTok. It's at strongthesaddle_. With Instagram and TikTok is at strongthesaddle, and you will find me my website in www.chrissyhawkins.com. Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.